SpaceX just filed an FCC request for Starship Flight 12, and buried in that paperwork was something nobody expected: the actual launch timeline. After the Booster 18 explosion at Massey, most people assumed SpaceX's packed schedule was finished. But here's what's wild. Booster 19 is still getting stacked in December, and the Q1 2026 launch window hasn't moved. How is SpaceX pulling this off after a major setback? The FCC filing reveals a launch window starting January 23, 2026, marking the first flight of the new Block 3 design with 33 Raptor 3 engines. What makes this timeline even more remarkable? Let's dive right in. On November 24, 2025, SpaceX filed for special temporary authority with the FCC to use radio frequencies for Flight 12, the first test of the new Block 3 design. The filing proposed an operational window from January 23 to June 28, 2026. Now, this isn't a launch authorization like what the FAA grants. It's specifically for critical flight safety communications, telemetry data, command uplinks, and radar tracking using S-band and X-band frequencies that aerospace has relied on for decades. Even though Starship has been streaming HD footage through Starlink since Flight 5, SpaceX still can't use Starlink as the primary channel for critical flight data. Why does NASA and the Air Force still require these traditional systems? The filing noted that both stages could either return to the launch site or perform water landings. While both options remain open, a splashdown is the more likely choice for this mission. It gives SpaceX maximum safety margin to evaluate all the new V3 upgrades while reducing recovery risks. SpaceX also submitted a space transfer authorization request to the FAA with a matching timeline, allowing the FAA to reroute commercial flights around that window before official clearance. But here's the question everyone's asking. Why apply for a 6-month window if they're targeting January? The answer reveals SpaceX's strategic thinking. Filing for 6 months up front saves them from reapplying multiple times if something goes wrong. If they only requested authorization through March and a booster exploded during static fire in February, the FAA would immediately pause everything for investigation. The launch would slip to May, the authorization would expire, and SpaceX would have to file again and wait all over. By securing a 6-month window, they protect their schedule against unexpected setbacks. Don't misunderstand this. They're not planning to delay until June 2026. Based on the updated timeline aligning with earlier comments from SpaceX VP of Launch Kiko Doncheva, the target remains January 2026. Even after the B-18 explosion, the schedule only slipped about 2 months at most. It could fly even sooner since SpaceX confirmed Booster 19 is being fast-tracked. We're now in late November. Finishing the vehicle might take 3 months maximum. Stacking remaining sections, running cryo tests, installing grid fins, mounting engines, and completing static fire. If everything holds, Booster 19 will be ready by late February or early March 2026. When that moment arrives, we'll witness multiple firsts. The first liftoff from Launch Pad 2, the first flight of Starship version 3, and the first time we see powerful Raptor 3 engines in action. If you remember the excitement of Starship Flight 1, Flight 12 is going to be on a completely different level. But can SpaceX actually maintain this pace? The B-18 incident acted like a domino, shifting all subsequent milestones. At the current pace, fully recovering that change seems unlikely. SpaceX just finished stacking Starship 39, and B-19 won't be ready until December. Components like the nose cone are at the Star Factory, but it's unclear if all other parts needed for assembly are on hand. The booster hardware remains particularly uncertain, and it needs completion at least a month before launch for testing. Following recent missions, SpaceX will need enough prototypes to support the refueling system. Launch infrastructure readiness plays a crucial role, and right now there's little evidence SpaceX can maintain the pace necessary to begin refueling by June 2026. Delays in the refueling system have broader implications, especially for lunar missions. SpaceX is racing Blue Origin to return humans to the moon's surface for the first time in over 50 years. Blue Origin has shown measurable progress with New Glenn and their lunar lander. While SpaceX's timeline appears to be slipping, Recent leaks point to a potential goal of 2028. Any delay in refueling will inevitably push back subsequent mission milestones, increasing pressure on SpaceX to accelerate production and testing. How will this affect the Artemis program timeline? Yet breakthroughs remain possible. SpaceX could combine multiple objectives in single missions, for example, achieving orbit while deploying payloads to save time. The company has capacity to scale up production quickly if needed. While the current situation is demanding, SpaceX's history shows that innovation and flexibility can overcome significant obstacles. What SpaceX needs now is to push Flight 12 forward because this flight carries several critical milestones. For the V3 booster, the flight will focus on testing aerodynamic and performance upgrades. The 3-grid fin system replaces the 4 fins used in previous versions, reducing weight by 10 to 15% and optimizing for higher angle of attack during glideback. The new grid fins are 50% larger, mounted inside the methane tank compartment, with the top fin removed due to limited airflow, improving stability and preparing the booster for catching with chopsticks on the launch tower. All 33 Raptor 3 engines represent the new generation with 20% more thrust, reaching 280 tons per engine, lighter dry mass, and fewer thermal shields. They'll undergo comprehensive testing, simultaneous ignition, electronic thrust vector control, and landing burns using 5 engines instead of 3 for precise touchdown control. The booster features a taller tank, 1.5 meters higher, increasing fuel capacity by 25%, and integrates a smooth hot staging interstage. The redesigned fuel transfer tube will channel cryogenic propellant efficiently to all 33 engines with vacuum-jacketed insulation and improved feedline systems, expected to save 10 to 15% of fuel by reducing losses and enabling faster flip maneuvers. Can these upgrades truly demonstrate the booster's reusability for consecutive missions? Ship 39 must prove that the V3 design can reach LEO successfully and maintain orbit long enough to test re-entry with new heat shield tiles. The tail has shed most thermal protection thanks to cooler Raptor 3 engines. A key goal is relighting Raptor engines in space, building on Raptor 2's success in previous flights to demonstrate maneuvering and prepare for in-orbit propellant transfer. Plan for full testing in summer 2026 with a tanker. The ship also integrates docking ports and quick disconnects for refueling, moving toward lunar landing capability. Flight 12 doesn't just validate V3 reliability, it lays groundwork for Starship as a truly versatile vehicle focused on safety, rapid reusability, and potential to reach 100-plus flights per year. Meanwhile, at Kennedy Space Center, Colonel Brian L. Chapman, commander of Space Launch Delta 45, revealed critical information during a media discussion about the Space Coast's 100th launch of the year. Early to mid next year is when we anticipate Starship coming out here to launch, and we'll have the range rated to support at that time, he said, adding that KSC is leading the way with LC-39A partnership with SpaceX. This means sometime between January and June next year, SpaceX could make Starship's first flight from LC-39A. The last major update came in early November when SpaceX installed the OCDM onto the flame trench system. Most heavy work is complete, and the pad should be operational early next year. Once active, SpaceX will be allowed to conduct up to 44 launches per year from this site alone, as approved by the FAA in the final EIS, published in August 2025. This intense schedule drew strong opposition last year from Blue Origin and ULA, who argued that SpaceX's launch pace could force them to repeatedly evacuate personnel from their own pads for safety reasons. But their attempts to slow SpaceX down failed, largely thanks to Colonel Chapman's support. What does this reveal about SpaceX's competitive advantage? SpaceX's support from Colonel Chapman ensures their operations continue without major interruptions. His unit handles public safety beyond spaceport gates, keeping the region secure during these historic launches. There's no better time to be present at the Space Coast than right now, Chapman said. We're breaking records for launch frequency, gaining orbital capability essential for national security, and we're doing it at a strategically challenging time. The concerns from SpaceX's competitors are understandable. Starship generates nearly 17 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, and being reusable means each flight produces 3 moments of roaring Raptor engines. Its sheer size means safety zones are much larger than those for Falcon 9. But here's what matters. If SpaceX flies more often, it simply demonstrates their superior launch capability. More flights ultimately benefit the nation. That's why Chapman consistently supports SpaceX and why blast damage assessments will gradually decrease as launches become more predictable and safer. Flight 12 represents more than just another test. It's the proving ground for technology that will define the next decade of spaceflight. With 33 Raptor 3 engines, new grid fins, enhanced fuel capacity, and reusability targets exceeding 100 flights per year, this mission sets the foundation for everything that follows: refueling demonstrations, lunar missions, and eventually Mars. The race is on, and SpaceX is pushing harder than ever. Will they maintain this pace? We'll find out in January 2026. What are your thoughts on Flight 12's timeline? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button and share it with fellow space enthusiasts. Don't forget to subscribe to Space Update 24 Hours and turn on notifications so you never miss critical updates on Starship's journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. SpaceX just released nearly 7 minutes of Raptor 3 test footage from McGregor, and this isn't just another engine burn. The test simulates a full Starship Flight 3 Ascent profile, pushing the engine through sustained maximum thrust, aggressive gimbal movements, and the exact conditions needed for orbital missions. What makes this different from anything we've seen with V1 or V2? This is validation that Starship is finally ready to reach orbit. Let's dive right in. The footage SpaceX released runs 6 minutes and 40 seconds, showing a complete burn cycle from ignition through sustained firing to clean shutdown. Multiple camera angles capture the engine's behavior. Close-ups reveal combustion stability. Wide shots show the full test stand setup, and external views track exhaust plume characteristics under different conditions. This level of documentation tells us SpaceX isn't just testing an engine anymore. They're validating an entire flight profile. But why does this particular test matter more than the dozens of Raptor burns we've seen before? The answer lies in what SpaceX wrote alongside the video. Validation testing on a Raptor 3 performing a Starship Flight 3 Ascent burn. That single line reveals everything. This wasn't a random test. It was a precise simulation of the most brutal segment of any orbital mission, the ascent phase where every engine operates at absolute maximum thrust while fighting both gravity and atmospheric drag simultaneously. For Super Heavy, all 33 Raptors must fire at full power to punch through the densest atmospheric layers. The ship's sea-level engines face the same demands after stage separation. Later flight phases need fewer engines. Re-entry uses only 3. But those initial minutes climbing out of Earth's gravity well? That's where missions succeed or fail. Here's what makes V3 fundamentally different. Starship V1 and V2 were never designed to reach orbit. They were development platforms, testing vehicles built to validate